France's Overseas Minister Emmanuel Valls says he will visit New Caledonia next week as a deal to give the Pacific Ocean territory limited sovereignty looks set to flounder. The Bougival agreement, signed last month with both pro-independence and pro-French groups in the territory, appeared to have brought to a close a period of deadlock in the French overseas territory, 1 year on from riots that left 14 people dead and devastated the New Caledonian economy. But it is expected to be rejected by the pro-independence Kanak and Socialist National Liberation Front today. And for more on this, I can bring in Françoise Vergès, historian and specialist in the political history of France's overseas territories. Good morning, Françoise, and thank you for joining us. The Flinks delegation at Bougival, they were happy with the agreement last month that it signed, but the agreement hasn't met with the same approval or support back home. Why is this?
Well, I do think, that first, the delegation was not officially approved by the movement. And the movement decided by looking closely at the term of the agreement that it was not sufficient. It did not effectively in fact, accept full sovereignty of the Kanak. So the Congress have, in fact, the final say.
Now, Christian Tang, the president of the Flinks, has said that talks should continue, but only with a view to full sovereignty for New Caledonia. Is this going to be, does this rule out any compromise? And is it going to be an obstacle for the French government, either this French government or future French governments?
But we have to also remember that the French state has always had incredible difficulty to, in fact, accept full sovereignty by the people it has colonized. We can remember all, the colonial war, Madagascar, Cameroon, Algeria, Indochina, and so on. So, and remember, for instance, what we could call the Mesmer doctrine. Pierre Mesmer was a minister of the Overseas Department, saying, first, he encouraged, as you do know, migration to New Caledonia to make the Kanak a minority in their own country. And then he always said, and I do think that in fact it's the doctrine of the French state, that the state will recognize independence only after killing or getting rid of the more, radical leaders and accepting, those who will accept in France the state condition. So there is a long history, and I do understand why the Kanak, are not trusting the state. Are not trusting the state. So effectively, and then secondly, if I may say, this way of putting together, on the same level, the settler, even though, they might be there for 3-4 generations, with the Kanak, who were, whose land were stolen, who were put in reservation, which was a unique case in the French colonial empire, who are even poorer than the French settler, is a question you cannot put, on an equal level. Those who are oppressed and those who oppress them.
Now, the Bougival Accord, it allowed for the creation of a new Caledonian state within the French state and also Caledonian or Kanak nationality. Is this as good as a French government is ever going to grant? Because it is considerably advanced on what had previously been offered Caledonians. Do you think that this will actually be offered again, or will France just simply say that, well, you rejected this, we're not going to give any more?
Well, France, of course, will say that they got so far, and that's very important that they gave, that they recognize sovereignty. But it's not full sovereignty. The state does not understand. You don't give half of sovereignty or little part of sovereignty. And of course, you have also the question of the nickel industry, right? That the state wants still to keep control over it, which is, more the important sources of revenue for the future Kanak state. And the Kanak want full sovereignty. They want to decide themselves. They don't want to be part, how can I say, dependent of the decision of the French state. It's not really full sovereignty. It's sovereignty by, and still with the French state, deciding, making the decision. The Kanak people want to make their own decision, want to decide their own future, and it's it's a demand recognized by the United Nations and recognized in international law.
Now, France is unusual among former Western colonial powers in maintaining large amounts of the former colonies as part of the French state. Is France worried that a domino effect might cascade from the case of New Caledonia and it might encourage secessionist groups in other overseas territories?
Yeah, I mean, this is effectively a pertinent question. As you do know, this territory makes France the second maritime power in the world after the United States, which is, when you look at France, will not be that. It gives them also possibility of military intervention. It gives them also, in economic benefit, cultural. It allows France to sit on different regional organizations in the Indian Ocean, the Caribbean, in South America, and in the Pacific. It's a lot of, benefit. And today, of course, with everything changing, especially in the Indian Ocean, which is becoming a very militarized ocean, through which, as you do know, the oil goes through. I mean, there is this Indo-Pacific military, project, and France wants to be in it. So effectively, keeping this territory is extremely important. And the fear, I mean, France has always fought against movement for either political autonomy or independence in the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific or Indian Ocean, extremely strongly, as it's military occupation in some of the places. And as you were saying last year, when they were, social revolt in New Caledonia, Kanak, it did not hesitate to send army. And it has assassinated leaders in New Caledonia, Elo Mashoro and others. So again, the people of this territory are absolutely aware of the long history of the multiple obstacles that the state has put against their absolutely legitimate desire to govern themselves and to decide, what they will do. You are in the Pacific. This is not a region of France. You are not in Europe. You are very far away, surrounded by different countries, and you have to decide with whom you're going to have trade, with whom you're going to, how you're going to develop yourself, what you want to develop. And you don't want a state which is like very far away in Western Europe to decide for yourself.
Thank you very much for that. Françoise Vergès, historian and specialist in the political history of France's overseas territories.